Hi everybody, how are you all? Hopefully you're all really well and enjoying the weekend. Are you? Right, so I know there's a few people on the chat box, so let's start chatting to each other and let's start sharing our information between ourselves, shall we? So who have I got on there today? I've just been chatting to Michael, so hello Michael. And who else is on there? Someone who's gone to collect their child as well. Is that Blue Skies? I think he might be back in a bit. So hello everybody and thank you for joining me. So I thought I'd have a chat about our livers this weekend, and mainly because I think there's going to be quite a lot of celebration going on in the next few months, if not this weekend. And I thought we might benefit from understanding how our livers work, really, and why they're really, really key in regards to our detoxification. And so get on the chat box and start chatting away to me about what you want to know. And let's see if we can share the information between ourselves. So our livers tend to get an absolute beating most of the time, mainly because of the diets we eat, the chemical toxicity we're surrounded with, and the drinking we do. So our eating, drinking, and thinking, as I will continuously go on about, are basically impacting continuously on our livers. And so I'm going to look at things that can really help support our liver, and because it's absolutely key in keeping ourselves healthy and functioning on a day-by-day basis. And it will, if you look after your liver, it will, and all of your body in general, it will make sure that you aid your longevity in the long term. So your liver's basically the body's chemical factory. And Vin's just turned up. Hello, Vin. So your liver's the chemical factory, and it basically has about 500 functions. But it's like anything, the scientists think they kind of know it all in many respects. But I was having a chat with Mark Conrad yesterday from Nutrivital. So hello, Mark, if you're listening. And we were saying about the ability of the body and the energetics of the body. So although the science, says there's about 500 functions, you never really know in the wider scheme of things at the moment, because they haven't found it all and they don't know it all. Let's face it. So Stingray Moore, have you got anything for liver cirrhosis? I'll cover that off today. And what have you been doing, Stingray, to yourself? You need to stop drinking first of all. But the liver's actually really remarkable. It is an incredible organ, and they say it's the biggest organ. We consider that one of the largest organs is actually the skin, but it is quite a large organ, and it basically cleanses our blood overall. And Niall is saying, another bottle of body. I can see this is going to be a difficult session with everybody. So Vin saying, during the week the lads were discussing urine therapy. Yes, I know, and I want to listen to that podcast. I think I asked whether the podcast had gone up. Urine therapy is really interesting and isn't practiced very much anymore. But yes, it's... definitely, I might cover urine therapy. I'll have a chat with the guys, and once I've listened to that podcast, and cover that later, because naturopaths do urine therapy, but only at specific times and with specific people. But it's actually quite powerful as well. Those isotherapies are. I often use them, but only at specific times for creating amazing change in the body. Right, so the liver plays really quite an important role in basically metabolism, and your metabolic functions, in general, are needed for detoxification, and they're obviously around your digestion and your excretion throughout the body of the chemicals, your toxicity, the balancing of hormones. If you've introduced hormones into your body, it deals with all that. And it deals with the drugs that you've put in, the drinks that you've put in, the vodka Nala that you've put in, and whatever Stingray Moore's managed to put in. And and Stingray Moore's asking for an alcohol-based cure would be great. Well, I always say if you're going to if you want alcohol-based cures, then you can always turn to Bach's flower remedies. And my remedies and the tinctures have all got alcohol in them. So if worst comes to the worst, you can get you can have your miniatures and your remedies as a bit of like tequila slammers. So, and by doing that, by having your backs as a miniature, you will gain the benefit of on the emotional side as well as the benefit to the body overall. So, liver's absolutely key for detoxification, and and the drugs that we put it under masses of pressure. The foods that we put it under masses of pressure, and it deals with it through effectively biochemical pathways, so that it's excreted through your bowels, through your lungs, through your kidneys, through your skin. So all those key areas basically where we would see eliminations, and we call them the elimination channels, and that's probably how you'll hear me refer to them by accident. So if you're not clear what I'm talking about, then get on the chat box and say to me. And let's see, Stingray, what have you said now? Do those remedies come in pints? You can put them in pints, yes, but you need to probably buy them from a supplier like myself. Wouldn't it be great if when you went to a hotel and you opened the mini bar that had those miniatures in your Bach's flower remedies in, as well as any miniatures of vodkas? And now they're saying a straw would be useful, yeah. Or just to have it, in a needle in your arm, probably. Okay, so the amazing thing about the liver is actually, 2/3 of it can be removed, and they do remove it in surgery, that much of it, and it can regenerate itself in 4 weeks. So the body has the ability to regenerate itself, Stingray. So if you have got things like cirrhosis happening, the body constantly works at regenerating itself forward. So 70% of your body, and I will go on and on and on about this, is actually recreated in 12 months time. Over 7 years, it's completely a new body. So fundamentally, you don't have to be carrying illnesses forward. And of course, you are going to be creating those illnesses because you've got the resonance, but you can stop that from happening. You can regenerate it, and in particular, the liver is just astonishing at its regenerative abilities. Stingray saying he's a 2-straw man. Is that one of those squiggly straws? So your liver's basically involved with the metabolism. So that's the breaking down of your fats, your carbohydrates, your foods in general, and all the different molecules and vitamins and minerals. And it actually stores those vitamins and minerals. So it actually is quite a powerful organ. It does a lot of things. And basically, to treat it appropriately will give you, longevity. But the more you bombard it with your vodkas and your excessive drinking, it is going to reduce your lifespan over time, unfortunately, because you're just putting it under more and more pressure. It removes things like bacteria, toxins from the blood. So it's an absolute powerhouse. Do I give credence? So Vin is asking, do I give credence to the idea of genetic disorders? Bruce Lipton's work, he says that only about 5% of illness and disease states effectively are genetic. And as a naturopath, we tend to believe the same thing, to be honest. We have the belief that, there will be areas like that, but in effect, mostly the body has degenerated itself through a number of areas, dehydration being one of them, and that allows chronic disease states to start happening, and bacteria to start happening, and pathogens to start happening. And then you've got just your slow march depending on what you've been putting in, and if you've got a nutrient deficient diet, your body can't function properly overall. So if you don't have all the cogs in that machine, and all the different areas, all the different nutrients and minerals happening, then fundamentally they can't all fit together because they work synergistically. So, if you are only putting in one type of diet, if that's a processed diet, if you're drinking but you're not drinking water, then fundamentally over time your body just starts to degenerate itself. And is it Batman jelly, Dr. Batman? is his shortened name. He effectively says a lot of disease states are effectively caused by dehydration. So Stingray, what's that? He's saying, Stingray, what is that about? I'm not from the men wear frocks. Where did that come from? Honestly. So Michael's saying, things like sickle cell and anemia are good examples. In effect, we would always take it back. I find that I can work with autoimmune and all sorts of disease states and chronic disease states and undo a high number of them significantly. I kind of liken it to undoing a laced up pair of shoes. When I get somebody with a chronic disease state, I will understand that picture and how it's got there, and whether they've been born in with it as well. So we know at what point the health has been at that point at birth, and then what has exactly led to this current disease state. And then I will look at putting the right things in at the right times and cleansing to enable that body to then function again. And often, and I'm going to cover this today hopefully, cleansing is a key aspect of it as well, because the more toxic the cell gets, the less it can function properly. And that then leads to all these other areas of illness, which are seen to be only a one-way street. And I see it regularly with the people I work with. I slowly but surely undo it. And these are chronic disease states that the consultants have been seeing people for a long, long time, and they haven't been able to resolve them. And they've just been putting them on more and more and different types of medications to deal with it and manage it. So, always consider that the body has the ability and always wants to actually do its best and wants to heal itself. And it's bringing itself constantly into balance to enable itself to do that. And therefore, often we're told one paradigm, because fundamentally, putting a pill in hasn't resolved it. But actually, that's not the approach that you have to take. Okay, so what's going on in this box now? I'm going to leave you to it, I think. So, let's bring it back to the liver. The body, the liver basically deals with your blood. So effectively, all your blood's passing through it. And it deals with about 5.5 litres of blood. And that circulates around your body around about, 3 times every minute. So it can actually be travelling about 19 kilometres a day, So your blood's working hard, and if that carries your nutrients, your blood carries all your nutrients and your water, and so the body's constantly dealing with that the whole time, and so your liver's under quite a lot of pressure, and just in kind of basically functioning. So outside of that, if you're adding in toxicity, which we are just generally surrounded with now, and you're adding to it with all sorts of things, your diet, and your thinking, and what you're drinking. If you're dehydrating yourself, then functionally you are reducing that ability within the body. So the function is absolutely vital to ensuring that your blood is actually cleansed properly. And when I'm seeing sort of inflammation happening and kind of issues with an itis on the end, so inflammation, sort of health issues, then basically I will always see what's happening at the blood point in the body, and because that would mean to me that the liver's not cleansing itself properly. So it's interesting to start tracking back your health, and really looking at what you're doing and how it's impacting on you on a wider sort of scale. So the other thing about the liver is it actually secretes bile, which basically helps with the absorption of fats in the body. And as the liver gets more and more congested, effectively this is where you start to put weight on, and because the body can't break down the fats properly. And so, you start to put yourself under more and more pressure. So it's kind of becomes this vicious cycle. As you become more congested in the liver then finds it more difficult to actually break down the fats. And so you kind of end up going around in a circle. But your body produces about 0.5 litre of bile a day. That's quite a lot. So it's constantly doing this. And it constantly kind of receives samples and processes and absorbs all the nutrients before they actually get into the general circulation of things. And and then your blood basically flows from out of the liver to the heart. So it's actually quite key that the liver can function properly, because it impacts so quickly on the heart area. So, and the liver's basically extracting oxygen and nutrients from the blood. So, you need to make sure that your food is the best food you can have, because that's what it's breaking down fundamentally. So Michael's saying, please list all the steps one should take to completely cleanse of toxins or other harmful agents. I'm actually going to cover today basically how to in effect support your liver to actually completely cleanse of any toxicity. You really have to look at what type of toxicity you've actually got inside you and what you're trying to cleanse yourself of. And it's also important to get yourself to the point of cleansing, because if your body can't deal with that cleanse and you've been eating a standard diet, then in effect you can overload your system by starting to cleanse at the wrong time. So what you put in absolutely matters, and timing, and of course it all links with the moon cycles and the cycles of life and the cycles of what's going on seasonally, because at different times of the year we have times when we're going to be cleansed more and it's easier to cleanse, and then times of the year when actually we just want to rebuild our bodies, like in winter. We don't really want to be cleansing in winter. It's a building time. It's a time when actually you just want to put on some weight and kind of stay inside more and look after yourself more, keep yourself warm. So there are times when cleansing is important. So but I'm going to go through how to support the liver today. So just bear with me, Michael, and if I don't answer your question, then keep kind of plugging in the chat box at me. And but basically let's get back to kind of the functioning of the liver a little bit, because your hepatic duct, which comes out of the liver, leads to your gallbladder. So let's just cover gallbladder a little bit. And that common bowel duct basically connects to the duodenum, which is the top of the gut area. So, and it's the bile flow from there which regulates into the duodenum, and effectively this is what breaks down your fats and enables your body to actually deal with the fats, because the bile actually emulsifies the fats. So after you've been eating, hormones released, which is kind of called, I think it's called CCK, and so eating is eating the right foods that trigger the right hormones is absolutely key as well. And this is why your processed foods just don't do. This is why we end up overeating them all the time, because your foods, your natural foods, have work synergistically with your body, because they provide the right foods and nutrients that then give you the right messengers in the body. So, and basically you've got this whole chemical reaction happening after you've eaten, which releases hormones, which then triggers the gallbladder to then release the bile, and basically that's really very key to enable you to actually break down your fats properly. So your liver cells are major producers of cholesterol in the body. So if you're wondering where it's produced, it's actually produced there. So if you've got liver congestion, think about that for a moment. If you're eating the wrong foods and you've got a cholesterol problem, that's saying a lot about the state of your liver and the ability of your liver to actually function properly and to cleanse itself, and therefore it's going to lead you to having more kind of weight issues, obesity issues. It's going to lead to more health issues and potentially chronic disease states in the long run. So you're looking after your liver to enable it to actually have this functioning and to enable it to cleanse the blood and to actually release bile into the gallbladder, so that can all function properly, so that you can digest fats, because fats are absolutely key for your body. The right fats matter. And I've said before, your cellular membrane is made out of essential fatty acids. Therefore, it's absolutely important that you can break down those fats so that it can become part of the cellular membrane, so that it can become part of your myelin sheath, so that it can become part of your brain. Your brain's the fat richest organ. If you can't break down those fats, and just think about the fact that the medical establishment often remove the gallbladder and tell you, and I'm always absolutely astonished by this, that actually your gallbladder's not really that important, a bit like the appendix when they take that out. And I'm going to have a map put on the wall of all the body parts that the medical establishment remove and tell you that they're not important. Actually, the gallbladder's really very important in the body to enable it to function properly. So your gallbladder, if you have had it taken out, just bear in mind that you can no longer you've reduced your functioning of actually being able to digest fats by about 50%, basically. And so that's quite significant, and it will be an issue for you in the long run. So, and the thing is that your bile as well, it's what gives your poo its colour. So, it's part of the bilirubin. And therefore, you can really tell with who. And when I was being trained, my tutor Ali Holden basically said, you're gonna get very in touch with bowels, and she was absolutely right. As a naturopath, I got very in touch with bowels, and you should really understand the functioning of your bowels, and that will give you a massive amount of information, not just about the bowel area, but also about the functioning of the liver. So look at your poo. Okay. Now the thing is as well is that even if you've got the enzymes in place, and the thing is that if you've got a congested liver, you've probably got a picture where you have not got the right enzymes in place. So things like lipase, which help with the breakdown of fats, of course, basically, you're going to still struggle, even if you've got that enzyme to actually digest the fats properly. And, this is where you end up seeing gallstones and things like that. Yep, stingray more, absolutely. 3 pints of water a day. Is it distilled water? Be careful with distilled water. It can be used while you're cleansing, but in effect, distilled water has all the minerals taken out of it, and therefore your body will search for the minerals, and you are demineralizing yourself over time. So therefore, never stay on distilled water for very long. You can use it maybe during a cleanse, but that would be really about it. That's as far as I'm concerned. The best thing to do is just get a really good filter for your water, and just have filtered water or spring water if you live near a spring. And I think Vin has got this. You've got either spring water or I can't remember what you've got, Vin, but try and get yourself to the best quality water, because it's absolutely key. Your body's 75% water. The best water you can have will repay you in body functioning. So, and Michael, in order to assist in the cleansing of the liver, ought we to abstain the intake of alcohol, as this makes the liver work harder? Absolutely. And the thing is, I always run the 8-20. One of the things that I say to my clients is that life's for enjoying it, and your endorphin levels that rise when you're actually having fun and enjoyment and happiness in life will they'll basically outweigh the negativity of the 20%. But it's about enjoying it. So often when people are drinking, that they're drinking in an unhappy state, and that's not great. That's really going to do a lot of damage in a number of ways. So in effect, make sure, if you are drinking alcohol, then basically enjoy it, and have a good time doing it, and make sure your endorphin levels are raised. But for me, it's about realizing that alcohol does affect the liver. Yes. It acts like a poison in the liver, and therefore the body and the liver then has to do everything it can to actually exit it out the body and to eliminate it, and it will do it through the variety of channels. And this is where it's really important, because the liver will remove it into basically the bowel area, and if it can't get out through bowels, it's going to go back into the bloodstream. And this is where we often see, weight gain and everything happening, and people becoming iller and iller because the bowels aren't moving properly. So it's about making sure that if you are doing those things, that you keep them to the minimum and you really enjoy them, and that way you have you really do enjoy life and you have longevity with it. So I think Columba, distilled will leach out only the bad minerals. That's not what I've read, in all honesty, Columbo. And you might want to do some further research on distilled water and what people like Hippocrates, Byron Clement say about it, and Gabriel Cousins say about it, because I think they only use it in the short term, if they use it at all, and to actually help cleanse maybe. And then it's, I would never use it in the long term, but it's an interesting point. But if you've got any research around that, put it up in the box so I can read further about it. Stingray Moore, I have a tendency to glug wine at night. I buy the non-sippable stuff. Isn't that most wine? Stingray. The thing is, most people tend to come home now and, do consume quite a lot of wine, whereas when I was a child, wine drinking was kind of kept to its, to social occasions, and they've done a fantastic job of, one, making it cheap enough, as cheap as chips, so to speak, and they've made it really, really accessible for you to drink at home and to drink in excess. And, nobody really thinks anything now of having more than, 1 or 2 glasses of wine an evening. But that actually is quite a lot for the body to be dealing with continuously. So just bear that in mind. So let me have a look. So if you've got gallstones happening and things like this, just think about the fact of the state of your liver and what you might be doing to it. And, I know of a few people who've had gallbladders taken out, and, the medical people said this will resolve the problem. And actually they've felt tireder and much worse afterwards than they have in regards to, before. And they felt pretty ill before, and they were hurting them, which is why they've had them out. But in effect, it might be worth looking at procedures where you can actually, because there are flushes out there that you can do, and so it might be worth looking into them. And also getting yourself onto a natural diet, which slowly but surely break it all down. But gallstones are effectively a build-up of either your calcium, of the bilirubinate. So it's an excess of that, or it's actually cholesterol. So you've got those two areas, and because you're not eating the right diet, that's in effect what's happening. So just think about the fact that if you've got excess cholesterol happening, you're likely to be causing yourself gallstones in the long run. So let's see what Stingray's now said. I do offset overindulgence with a couple of smurfs. How do you remember? And then you have the munchies later, I imagine. Yeah, so Columbo's saying been drinking reverse osmosis water, and that's your best water, basically. What would you recommend for kidney stones? I'm not going to cover kidneys today, to be honest, but that's a build-up in the same way of calcification happening in the kidneys, and that's your kidneys not effectively functioning properly. So you need to be looking at why your kidneys aren't functioning properly and the different minerals that would be building up, therefore, in the body to actually be creating that. Because 1, that's down to liver functioning. 2, that's down to diet. 3, that's probably down to the amount of water that you're drinking as well. Could also be down to the type of water you're drinking, and the mineralisation of the water locally. So different reasons for that as well. But predominantly always been, if you've got stones happening, it's normally a build-up of calcification, and therefore you need to be looking at what's creating the calcification, and that's diet predominantly. So as a naturopath, I tend to diagnose. I diagnose in different ways, and so that I can understand what's going on in the body, and for myself. And effectively, I use what's called the 5 elements, which is from Chinese medicine, from traditional Chinese medicine. Something really interesting that some of you might want to look into, because it really can give you quite a good insight into what's happening in your body and why it's happening. I often see when the liver's congested and not functioning fully, that and I can often tell from when people just walk through the door as well, and this is the great thing about this approach. In effect, you can quite quickly tell what's going on with people and yourself, because emotionally how you change. So for instance, things like stress, and you'll see that with your kidney. So your kidney picture you might have a bigger stress picture, but in regards to liver, you'll see anger, things like procrastination, people not being able to make decisions, or people making they might be the other way, and they're highly organised and almost too organised and very, very planned, so it's one way or the other. You can see things like depression, and also with the kidneys you can see things like depression as well, Nala. So you can see these as congestion starts to happen more and more in the body, and irritability. And I know when clients get angry with me over the emails, because I will put my treatment plans in place and send them off with bits and pieces, and as they start to cleanse, they will often write to me in quite an angry state, and very blaming at times, and this is the change that's happening in their body as they're starting to change the makeup of the cell and change how their body is functioning properly. It's really quite interesting, and I don't take it personally and they often apologize afterwards. But for you, if you're finding that you've got an anger picture, and you find you just flip out really quickly, think about what that might be saying about your liver. If you've got irritability really easily happening, that's probably telling you quite a lot about your liver. So what would I use for a liver flush? I actually don't do liver flushing, in all honesty, Reverend. And as Reverend Rashes has just asked that. And that's because let me think. I basically try and reduce the impact through the diet, first of all. So I never actually personally will take my clients through a flush. If they choose to do it, and I have a lot of raw foodists who's chosen to do it, then I'll support them with it. But the main issue that can happen with the liver flush is that the stones can get stuck. So it's really important, because that can cause quite a lot of pain. And so it's important to actually get yourself with somebody who actually knows and is familiar with the process. Things like Dr. Schultz in the States, he's a herbalist and a naturopath. He has an approach about liver flushing, which I have been looking at myself, so I might be able to talk about that in more detail in the future. But I've actually never done a liver flush, and don't do it with my clients. But if you've got any ideas, Reverend, then that would be great if you can share that with everybody. And so basically, do I have a contact in Staffordshire? Any recommendations? I don't actually. And but one of the things you might want to do is get in touch with Nutritional Healing Foundation, and they have naturopaths all over the country who've been trained in the same way that I've been trained, which is kind of in an old-fashioned naturopathic way, and rather than via degrees and science and everything. So in effect, you might want to just contact them and see if they have someone over that way, and who might be able to help you. So let's see, Michael saying, am I familiar with chelation therapy used to remove heavy metals from the body? Would I recommend this treatment if I was concerned that the fish you ate? I would use other approaches first, in all honesty, to remove mercury. So in effect, I would initially change the diet over so it's completely natural, so that the body can function properly, make sure there's enough water in the body, make sure that all the elimination channels are open, so fundamentally opening up the bowel, making sure that the bowel's cleansed, because anything that you put in has got to come out. So you need to make sure that once you start moving everything, that it actually can pass out of the body. And this is where sometimes you put remedies in, and if you haven't opened up your elimination channels, it starts to get stuck. So you really need to make sure that actually your body is open to enable the flushing out to happen, so to speak, of any chemical toxicity. Things I would probably do with mercury. Well, the thing is that it depends where the body is, and depends what the person is like. So, in effect, changing diet, you may be doing that for a good period of time before you actually even get to mercury cleansing and getting that out of the body. But things like chlorella can draw that out. Your wheatgrass can draw that out. And there's all sorts of things that you can use, but you need to make sure that the body can actually is in a place to actually remove it. And you've got your zeolites, they will actually draw out your heavy metals as well. So you basically would go onto a heavy metal detox at the right time though. And I never put people on that straight away. I use things like heavy metal detox. That's one of the products that I tend to use with people. And I actually have rife frequencies. There's all sorts of things you can use, in all honesty. So there's lots of approaches, but the thing is to get yourself tested and to see whether actually you do have high levels of mercury or not. And the other thing, just as a side, is if you've got mercury fillings and you're having wheatgrass, you need to be drinking it through a straw, because the wheatgrass will draw it out of your mouth, and then it's taken out through your whole system. So just be aware of that. Shaziz, I'm flushing my liver with coffee right now. Fantastic, Shaziz. And it's funny you should say that, because I'm actually going to be doing that afterwards, because my liver's feeling a little bit congested at the moment. So, and Shaziz has brought up coffee enemas, and yes, I'll cover coffee enemas in a bit. But coffee enemas, Max Gerson effectively introduced them, and they're really, really fantastic. But you need to make sure you're actually you are putting your electrolytes and your minerals back in. So Shaziz, if you are doing that, make sure that you're actually having juices, and your green juices, a good vegetable juice which is, I've got the juicer out, so I'll be doing about a litre of, at least I've already done a pint of juice today, so I'll be doing another pint later of juice to make sure that I've put my electrolytes back in, because they are highly depleting coffee enemas. And Merck used to have them in their manual up to 1970s. So effectively, they used to use coffee enemas in the medical establishment, and they used to use them for, I can't remember. I've got it somewhere in my notes. So I'll come back to that. I'll remind myself later. But so Michael's saying weeks or months of improved diet. It really depends on where you are, in all honesty. I can put people... So let me put you in a perspective, just to give you a perspective. I get people who are extremely ill, who've been brought in and almost carried in, and in effect, I may be just giving them water and increasing the water in them and making sure they're hydrated, and that might be 6 months before I even change diet. So bit by bit, because they are so ill that any change flips them really easily. So it's very difficult to actually give real guidelines in regards to when you should be doing things, because I absolutely tailor everybody's plan. And there will be times when you can move faster and slower with your body as well, but you may be looking at months in regards to dietary improvement, in all honesty. But it really depends where you're coming from. So if you're like me, and if I'd got some mercury poisoning now, for instance, and let me actually use a time when I did get poisoned. I got poisoned last year by accident, and I eat raw foods, so in effect predominantly raw foods, not all the time, but it's about 80% of my diet, and that means I've got a fairly cleansed body, and therefore when I got this toxicity, it completely wiped me out, and I was out for the count, literally in bed, and I fasted, and that's one of the best ways to remove things from your body. But then effectively, I altered my diet. I put more fats in the diet, and specific sort of stews and things to push the fats gently back in, because all of this toxicity tends to lodge itself in your fatty tissues, including your brain. So in effect, removing them has to be really gentle when you're at that point. So Michael, it really does depend on where you're at in regards to what's going on and how ill you are. And what's your diet been like previously? It actually took me about 3 weeks. I did a fast for about 7 days, and then I changed. I shifted the diet, so it's more focused to removing what had gone in, and then bit by bit, I recovered and got my energy levels back and resolved it. So it depends on where you are, in all honesty. Shaziz, it's not going in that way. Oh no, man. Mine will be. So can you send Mr. Curative with a heavy metal detox? I hate Sax and Def Leppard. Is that what he plays in Black Sabbath? I like And she's this is saying down the hatch, never up the chute. Oh man, you haven't experienced life. You've got no idea. Okay, so things that actually put pressure on the liver are things like overeating, and most people don't realise this. So it's not just about your drinking. It can be overeating. So people who continue eating and eating and eating because their hormones are not triggering to say they're satiated, and this can be partly because you have a hormone called motilin, and when you drink water it's triggered in the stomach to tell you that actually your stomach's full. And if you're not hydrated, then effectively that's not going to work. You've got hormones called ghrelin, and basically that's not going to function properly because the hormones that switch it on, basically the neurotransmitters that switch it on, are not functioning properly. So basically this is where overeating happens, and this is why it actually happens with processed foods. I've never had someone who's kind of said to me, I overeat on broccoli all the time. I just can't stop myself. It's more that, chocolate, biscuits, sweets, those sorts of things. It's because you haven't got the nutrients in them. Grab yourself a couple of kilos of broccoli and see how far you get through that. So overeating is one of the areas basically that will really put the liver under pressure. Rich foods as well. So if you've got high fatty foods, then in effect, and you'll find this with people who've got ME and are highly fatigued, that they really, really struggle with fats and any level of fat. So if you've got someone who's got a high fatigue picture, then in effect you will probably find that any level of fat will just knock them out and tire them out completely because their liver is so congested. So in effect, you will find that things like rich foods will also cause a problem. Processed foods, of course, and your environmental toxicity. So that's constantly putting your liver under pressure as well. And we're bombarded with that, as you well know. With God knows how many new chemicals placed in our environment all the time. Eric's joined us. Hello, Eric. Afternoon. I see you've got an emoticon happening there. Everybody who knows me this week, who's been corresponding with me, has had an emoticon after them. If you listen to last week's show, you'll know why. And stress is another thing that will congest your liver. So basically, when the liver becomes overloaded, it leads to kind of the body's having a decreased ability to clear your toxicity. So the more congested it gets, if you imagine it, it's effectively like a pump that's just becoming, the tubes are just getting more and more sort of plaque down them. It struggles. So therefore, all of your hormones and your neurotransmitters become affected. You slow your whole body's reactions down. And, this is where we end up, we see higher acidity levels in the body. And because they're passing through the blood, and the blood can, the liver can only do so much in the end. And I think, in fact, your body, I can't remember now whether it was by the age of kind of 40, you've only got about 38% of liver functioning if you're on a standard kind of American or UK diet, which is quite scary, really, when you think about it. So natural diets really help. And I cannot express enough. Often we look at remedies, and actually it's basically, for me, it's about getting the diet in place. And, things like lemon and water in the morning, and, it really helps to cleanse the liver. But make sure that if you are cleansing the liver, that your bowels are open. So in effect, just be careful with when you're introducing things, because liver, you things like lemon, they do start to cleanse you. So it's important to make sure the other end is actually open as well. And I'm a naturopath, so I'm going to talk about those things. So if you want a nutritionist approach, then basically, you're not going to get it. It's always going to be naturopathy. And things like beetroot and vegetable juice are absolutely fantastic for the liver. And, I can't tell you enough. I've already been talking, with Shaziz about, the coffee enemas, and making sure that you have vegetable juices and you replace your minerals and you replace your electrolytes. But beetroot in particular and your vegetable juices, they're brilliant for actually, bringing vitality in at a cellular level and cleansing the body. So make sure your food's actually really good quality as well, and that it's actually balanced. And you need small but good amounts of things like proteins, because they provide the amino acid picture that keeps your liver functioning, and they're actually quite important. So there's loads and loads of things that you can be doing just through diet alone, and that can make a massive impact. And if I bring you back to the fact that they can remove 3/4 of your liver and it will regenerate itself in less than 4 weeks, then diet is going to make a massive impact, and you don't even have to remove it. And in 12 months' time, 70% of your body can be different, and it can be fantastic. So, Shazise, will that be hot coffee? No, it's not hot coffee. It's always blood temperature. What are you lot talking about on that chat box? Honestly. Yes. So to improve things like your cholesterol balance, it's really important to make sure that you're actually getting good quality fats in your food. Now, when people go to the doctor, they are often told, if they've got a cholesterol picture, you have to cut out fats. And often clients, they look at me and they've got a cholesterol picture, and I'm not telling them to cut out all fats. All I will try and do is remove things like their processed foods, and in effect put in good quality fats. And I was in the supermarket a while back, and I was buying about 5 avocados, as I do, because I tend to have them in smoothies. And there's a guy, if you get my newsletter, you will have read this. There was a guy stood next to me, and he said to me, "With all those avocados, you're going to get fat." I said to him, "Do I look fat?" I'm basically about 7.5 stone. And he said, "Oh, no." And he started to look around. I said, "Avocados don't make you fat." And this is the thing, the essential fatty acids don't make you fat. They basically enable your hormones to actually function properly. And therefore, you will find that you can't overeat on essential fatty acids in the same way. Therefore, they're important. If you want to cut your cholesterol levels, then basically it's really important to actually make sure you've got good fats in your diet. Because your body needs them at the cell level and your brain. If you want your brain to really function properly, then, make sure that you've got good fats in your body, and it will help you to cut your cholesterol level. The other thing, if you want to cut your cholesterol level down, look at your coffee intake and your wine intake, and look at your water intake. Because mostly I knock cholesterol on its head, and I will see people with statins, been on numbers of statins, and their cholesterol levels have changed a little bit with the statins, but not a lot. And I come along, and basically their cholesterol drops significantly in less than 4 weeks, and all I've done is basically put in good quality oil and water and take the coffee out. So it doesn't have to be difficult. So it's to decrease your cholesterol level and all that, basically the impact that you might be having on your gallbladder and things. Decrease your processed unnatural fats in the diet, the saturated fats, your fried foods, your baked processed goods, your Greggs, your pasties. God, why was the government pushing them just recently? Isn't that, and just as an aside, the fact that often there's no VAT on this food in comparison to things like smoothies and other bits and pieces is just appalling. So increase your essential fatty acids. I won't go off in too much of a rant. And increase the fibre as well. So if you want to reduce your cholesterol level, increase your fibre, and increase your fruits and vegetables. So it's that predominantly what I'm talking about, not your meats and things like that, but your fruits and your vegetables. And, this will give you, the fiber's fantastic because it starts to draw everything through the body and out the other end. So it's really important. And things like supplementing with, your B vitamins, your 6, your 12, B3, your vitamin C, your folates, your chromiums, your EPAs, L-carnitine, your garlics are all really important for supporting the body whilst it's actually going through that change and reducing its cholesterol level. So all those, and, garlic's got a great for actually helping to reduce cholesterol levels. So you can bolt those on the back basically, and which makes it easy. And obviously, if you've got a fatty liver and you've got congestion happening, you've probably been eating foods that are driving your sugar levels and your blood sugar, so the chromium will help with managing that as well. So think about things like that. So your liver is really important for detoxification, and to aid that actual detoxification, think about things like your B-vits, your 3 and 6, vitamins A and E and C, and your vitamin E, things like zinc, your calciums, your seleniums, L-cysteine, so your amino acids are really, really key as well. And they're all needed for detoxification. And often all we think about is things like kind of milk thistle to support and stuff like that. And you know, your amino acids are really, really key. And things like methionine, and you know, that's found in things like your sprouts, your cabbage, your collies, your kales, your chives, your horseradish, things like garlics and watercress, pineapple, apple, Brazil nuts. So really can help. And you know, cysteine, which is sulfur. We don't have enough sulfur in it often in our diets, and sulfur is really, really key for detoxification as well. So things like your alfalfa, you know, and alfalfa is fantastic for actually enabling the blood to cleanse itself properly. Your carrots, your beets, you know, your kales, your cabbage, your cauliflowers. And if you're a bodybuilder, you really want to be detoxifying all of that acidity. If you're training and you're going to the gym, you want to be cleansing all that out of you, and to make sure it's all moving. So things like your onions, your garlic, currants, pineapples, nuts and things that are all rich in cysteine and the sulfur compounds, and those are really very key in helping to detox you. So you know, so basically, and things that, you know, your other amino acids are things like, you know, your L-cysteine, basically, that helps with preventing oxidation. So your oxidation is where you basically cut an apple in half and it starts to go brown. And that's what happens with your body with the wrong fats and the wrong diets. Basically, you start to oxidize yourself. And oxidation, you know, your brain as the fat richest organ, you really don't want that oxidizing. You know, so, and you know, and coming back to Michael's point earlier about you know, how do you get rid of things like mercury, things like L-cysteine, your amino acids are absolutely key to getting those in place, because L-cysteine will basically bind to mercury and help remove it. So you know, it's really important. So OJ, dear Debbie, I'd be kind of tell me, how do you see the fat issue, especially as I gather our bodies can't make chains above 18, which is the highest plants offer. Good fats. So basically, it's important to have the right fats, and things like your avocados, your nuts, your seeds, things like spirulina has fats in it, and then, you know, everything's got a little bit of fat in it. So it's really important to have good quality fats and your essential fatty acids, because they build your cell membranes and your brain. So fundamentally, it's really key, and you should have, you know, I always say, at least a portion of fat in your diet a day of good quality fats, so that you can effectively function properly. But it depends on, you know, what, how big you are and things like that. But it will help you to lose weight. It helps to manage all your hormone picture. So let's see if anything else is going on. Oh no, Clara, I feel so guilty eating my egg and toast. Egg on toast, eggs are good for you. Toast is it depends what the toast is, doesn't it? But I hope that's not got margarine on it. You know, at least have butter on it. So see, some right fatheads on here. That was Stingray who said that. That's not very nice. Shizzy's, Debbie, if I move in with you, will you keep me healthy? No. Shazzy, you're not moving in. It's that simple. Oh my God, I've got enough with the dog that I've got. So Michael, Debbie, it's the difference between unsaturated and saturated fats. Yes, effectively, look at your omega fats. So these are your natural fats, things like your flax oils, your fish oils, your fish in general. So you've got nuts and seeds. So you've got all those nut and seed oils, basically. Avocados. They're all rich in good quality fats. You know, things like your vegetable oil is processed and is nasty for the body, and it's damaging. So often they sell these vegetable oils as a healthy, with healthy written on them, and actually they're not. They're highly processed oils. Your simple cold pressed oils are the best ones. You shouldn't be heating them. If you're heating up oil, then basically use it like a coconut butter, a coconut oil, basically, and because that keeps its molecular structure far better. But it's far better not to cook your oils in general. and pour things like your avocado oils, or put an avocado on a salad and things like that, and do things like, I use hemp oil quite a lot. And, if I nearly cut my finger off the other week. I've been putting hemp oil on my finger just to make it look nice and try and restore the skin again. So she's smiling. Okay, so loads of butter on a thick slice of tiger bread. It's white bread. Did you not listen to last week's show? Or was it last week or the week before about gluten, Clara? Listen to the podcast about gluten and then come back to me. So let's see what else is going on in the chat box. Eric. So, is anybody saying anything seriously? No, none of you are. At least you're all having a laugh. So your amino acids are really key, basically, before the hour. So I'll just finish this off, I suppose. And we often forget about these. So your proteins are absolutely key. So think about how you can have a range of proteins. So not just your animal proteins, but also, your beans, your lentils and things like that, your nuts and seeds, because these are all a precursor to glutathione, which actually is really important as a detoxifier. And if your body makes that, so if your body doesn't have all the building blocks in place, in effect, it's going to struggle to detoxify whatever you do. So you need to make sure that the whole set of cogs around diet is in place first. And this is why I always work with foundation of water, and you will hear me go on and on and on about it. And then, the next thing is diet, and getting that in place and making sure the diet's balanced, because then cleansing can happen properly, because the body can naturally do it. So amino acids in a balanced diet are absolutely important. And, and basically, oxidation happens because of your free radical damage, and it happens because you've not got all those areas in place. And oxidation is basically, one of the most, it's one of the biggest causes of liver disease, effectively, with the oxidation. So your antioxidants and your antioxidant-rich foods are absolutely key. So I'm going to have a break and see what's going on. And let's see, Stingray Moore, what are you saying now? I had a lovely delicate piece of plaice in the week, but it seems to have lost its flavour after deep fried it in batter made with Guinness and a beef dripping. I have to be honest, years and years ago, my parents, when I was a child, they used to take us to this fish and chip restaurant, and when we went to Wales on holiday, and it was the only time when I was allowed to have a whole plaice to myself. And I still remember it to this day. I always remember it being absolutely delicious. I'm vegan now, so I won't be doing that. But are you going wrong somewhere, Stingray? I think you've answered your own question there, really, haven't you? Is that a rhetorical one? Let's have a look at what's been going on in the chat box since I've been away. Right, so good fats. So, OJ, basically, unfortunately, I'm told you can only get 3, 6, 9, 18 chain fatty acids, and our bodies need 20 and 22. That's the province of the animal kingdom. The best thing to do is, if you're like me and you're vegan, then you need to basically get the whole range of fats in, is to, you can get DPA and EPA oils now. And basically people like Opti3 and Omega Zen provide them. So you can get your other fats, which obviously the brain needs. So in effect, that's your EPA and your DPA at OJ. So you can actually get more of a range now, but you will have to, they're more expensive to buy, unfortunately, but they're totally vegan in source. I think they're algae and in source. So and that's what I use. Okay, so Columbus saying he has a problem getting his mind around drinking a glass of pee, and who said put it in a wine bottle? There you go, blue skies. It's Jedi mind trick. And what I find is that, like I say, I only use urine therapy at specific times, and if the body is cleansing and is cleansing a lot of toxicity out of itself, I would be not using it. And if you're on a standard diet, I would not use urine therapy at that point, because you're actually peeing stuff out of your body, which you don't really want to be taking back in at that particular time. So it's it's important to get your timing right with urine therapy, but urine therapy is fantastic for putting on the skin. I will I want to tell everybody this. I will often save my pee up across the day and then put it in the bath and bathe in it, and effectively, that, particularly if you've been having superfoods and a lot of herbs that day, can give you a real buzz, but also it makes your skin fantastic. If you've got skin issues happening, you've got a little bit of psoriasis coming up and things like that, it'd be fantastic for that sort of thing. And so you often don't have to just drink it, you can actually apply it topically as well. And Clara says, yay, the street is coming to the Stone Age. That's what I thought. The great thing about having my own show is I can play my favourite music. So is there anything else that anybody said, or is it all just everybody having a laugh? Ivan, hello. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So, just curious how your experience illustrates the whole fat issue. Yeah, years ago when I was training, I actually ate very little fats, because this was before I actually understood the true fat issue. And, I had a true understanding of how fat works in the body, and just followed what was typically out in the media. And, what my instructors told me, which was that I needed to eat low fat. Actually, my joints and everything, it didn't do me any favours in the slightest. And my, the brain functioning has significantly improved since I put in a range of oils. So I have GLA, I will make sure so that's an evening primrose oil. For those who don't realise it, I always have a DPA, EPA in there, and I'll have avocados. And my body tells me I will be drawn to the oils as well. But I always make sure I have flax oil and hemp oil in my diet nearly every single day. So fats, yeah, they're absolutely crucial. Yeah, Clara. I'm not actually sure, Clara, what you're saying WTF about at this point, because I've kind of carried the conversation on. Is that about the bath and me bathing in pee? The thing is, urine therapy is really quite powerful, and if you pee in the pool, if you pee in the pool, people get angry. They will do, yes, obviously. And it's for yourself, it's not for them, of course, because they don't benefit from your pee. But I will also use isotherapy as well. So I have a machine effectively where I will put some pee in a jar on one side of the machine, and then I will basically put a remedy bottle on the other with some the remedy mixture, and then I will set the machine off and do a screening, and basically it will place it places a similar signature. It's like homeopathy, it places a similar signature into the other bottle, and I can take that, and I have resolved issues quite quickly health wise by doing that. So that therapy is really quite powerful, and unfortunately it's one of those therapies that actually is seen as a bit of quackery nowadays, but try it and experience it for yourself, particularly on skin issues, and you will see a huge difference quite quickly. So, Stingray, are we on the fungus on my toe? Man, I'm going to stop reading all this out soon. Yep, OJ is absolutely right. Udo Erasmus' book has a good book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and he says if it's brown, flush it down, and effectively get rid of anything that's fried and brown, because it's not doing your bodies any good at all. So really good book, but not a book which you we should just sit and read, in all honesty, unless you're highly scientific. It can be quite a struggle to get through that book. So how I've read it is basically as and when I needed the information, I then absorb it from the different areas. But astonishing book, and I don't know how many pages it is. I've got it here next to me, in fact. So let's have a look at how many pages that is. And it's about 450 pages long, and it covers all sorts, from mother's milk and dairy products through to cholesterol in foods, through to how fatty are your foods, the rating of oils in diets, the diet controversies with foods, covers your plasma levels and all sorts of things. So antioxidants and how important they are, and they're in nuts and seeds. So, and they actually, antioxidants in nuts and seeds prevent oxidization of the oil in the seeds, and the nuts. So it's really important, and this is why having an antioxidant rich diet is really important for the oils in in your body, because your cell membranes are oily, your brain is a fat-rich organ, so it's important to actually really look after it. So let me see. So it covers body fat, all sorts of things, frying, uric acid, margarines. It's a brilliant book, absolutely brilliant. And if you want to know more about oils, definitely study it. What I plan on doing at some stage is actually kind of covering the books that I've got in my library that I refer to all the time and that I've basically used under my Bibles, so that for those of you who really do want to gain true health, you don't need a lot of books. You just need some key ones that will actually get you there. So, Shizzies, this conversation has gone south. Is that yours or mine? So I had Kathy Spellman on my show a few weeks ago. This is Clara. He's a vegan foodie too, and real into health. Yeah, I think you find most vegans, they're into two sides of things. One, the animal side, and two, the health side. I'm obviously really into it myself, but I don't push it down other people's throats. It's all horses for courses as far as I'm concerned. Michael, question: in your experience, are supplements almost as good as foods in getting nutrients into the body? I've actually got Amanda, the director from Cytoplan, coming on in July, who can talk to you about supplements, and she's coming on to do an interview with me. And it's one of the small companies in this country who provide food state and whole food state supplements. She's going to come on and talk about that and why all supplements aren't the same, because if you have got a deficit going on in your body, which most people have, then yes, supplements can, as long as they're natural and whole food state supplements, help you to resolve that and then get yourself back up to a point where you're functioning properly. So but for me, foods are always your first port of call, and should be, in all honesty, Michael, because they contain all of the minerals and all the nutrients that are needed to unpack that food properly. So for instance, if you eat a chocolate bar, your body has to go and search for the other nutrients to unpack the fat, unpack the sugar that's in there, because it's processed. If you have an apple, all the nutrients and minerals are kept in that apple, and therefore, and it's water rich as well. So your body doesn't have to go searching for them all the time. So it really depends on what your diet's like as well. But I tend to change people's diets first, water in place diet then next, and then basically supplements. Never introduce supplements straight away, mainly because what you push in, somewhere it has to come out. So in effect, it's really important to make sure that balancing act. And he's saying, I'm presently taking Maximum Green's complete dietary supplement. I actually don't know that one, to be honest, because there's so many different types out there. I will use different types of green supplements. I'll use super greens, which, if you want to see where they are, they're on Mike Nash's site, Aggressive Health. He sells them. So those are super greens. They're a nice sort of mixture of one. Donna Gates, she provides one with probiotic base, which is quite nice. And then I have a one from NutriGold, which is a very simple one. I'll also make my own up as well. So it really depends on what I want to achieve with them. Pro Greens is another one I use, which is basically from Biotics Research. That's actually very good, but it's not vegan. And that's one of the best ones I've come across for the money, and really quite useful. So let me see what else is going on in here. Anybody asking anything else? Has that answered your question, Michael? Let's see. So, okay. So nothing really going on there. So I'm actually going to talk about antioxidants now, because antioxidants are absolutely key for keeping the liver cleansed all the time. And we often think about what we can put in, and you'll hear me constantly bringing it back to diet as much as we can, because diet is key. So things like your vitamin E, and is basically, is an antioxidant that would be really, really beneficial. And but you need to take this with vitamin C, and this is where I say supplements can help you in some respects, but always try and get them through your foods, basically. And because to work synergistically, to work properly in the body, then they basically work synergistically. So also, if you are putting antioxidants in, you also need things like manganese, zinc, your copper, all your different minerals as well to function properly. So and this is what I was saying, basically if you're eating processed food, the body then goes off and searches for all these bits and pieces. And and it was so Columba saying, why do you believe that cholesterol scam? Hey Debbie, is cholesterol good? Cholesterol's really good in the body, and as long as your body's not overproducing it, in effect. So, but you need cholesterol for your cellular membranes, basically, and it's what keeps you flexible. So cholesterol's really very important for you. I can't remember what the book's called. Is it called The Cholesterol Con or something like that? I haven't got it next to me, unfortunately. But cholesterol's good, but you need to make sure it's not becoming too elevated, and that's how you need to manage it, basically, because once it gets too much in the body, this is where it starts to actually become stones. So hey, what else? So question for you, Deb. If you were trying to go on a vegan diet and gradually trying to cut out parts of the unhealthy foods, would that be the toast and butter, bit by bit, what would you recommend cutting out first, and what after that? It really depends on your diet and where you are, to be honest. I always look at putting water-rich foods in first, and fruits and vegetables. Get yourself up to your 5 a day, first of all. Most people aren't even doing 5 a day. A portion of your 5 a day is basically the size of your fist. It's about 80 grams in total. So in effect, get yourself up to 5 a day, and then start to increase that on the vegetable side, and you will see a fundamental difference in the functioning of your body just from that aspect. So slowly but surely increase your vegetable and fruit intake, and then put the right fats in behind it, and then what you'll find is that the other foods start to drop off. So I very rarely take anything out of my clients' diets. I always put in the good food and put in I tend to do an anti-inflammatory diet first, whatever, for all of my clients, and it's a real nice, easy step for most people to make. And it's just about making your diet more water-rich, and then over time, what will happen is all the other bits kind of come out, and you don't really notice it, and it naturally goes to an 80-20 mix. So hopefully that's answered your question, Clara. Get back to me if it hasn't. Okay, so things like, as I was saying, your foods basically are, the more natural your foods are, the more they basically have all the minerals in them too, and all the antioxidants that are needed to unpack them and to stop your body from oxidizing and stop the congestion and all that happening on your liver. So, effectively you need the minerals. And this is where if you are eating processed food, you're not going to get them in the same way because they're processed out, effectively. And bit by bit. So basically, a range of foods are necessary for your antioxidant enzymes to actually function properly. Everything works in synergy, and that's why it's far better to always eat your whole foods. And Michael's saying drinking or eating the following: green tea, pomegranate, apple, bilberry, rosemary. Indeed, yes. White tea, all act as good antioxidants. Absolutely. Just remember, with your green tea and your white tea, they've got caffeine in them. So in effect, the antioxidants are they're not so much reduced, but the caffeine creates a stress response for you. So then you're having to manage the stress response, and that dehydrates your body. So you might want to at first put the antioxidants in, but keep the caffeine related things out, and that way, because those will increase your cholesterol just as much as coffees and teas and things like that, as far as I'm concerned. So serious question, Deb, what about red wine? Is that WHINE? Shizzies. Red wine, with basically it's everything in moderation. If you want to keep drinking, then have the understanding that you are impacting on your liver with it, and it's that simple at the end of the day. And the more you drink, the more it impacts. The less you drink, the better quality your body will be in the end. Raw cacao nibs, one of my friend's favourites indeed. Yes, full of antioxidants. Yeah, just remember that also has a level of caffeine in it, so it will push your adrenals. So in effect, just balance your cacao out. So it has the antioxidants in it, but if your adrenals aren't in a good place, it's going to push your adrenals. So people who've got ME pictures and things like that should really probably be avoiding cacao in the in the short term until they've got themselves balanced out again. So things like oxidative damage actually contribute to things like your diabetes, your coronary diseases, your kidney diseases, and nerve damage. And, that's because it's attacking the oils. And this is where I start to see people with a reduction in myelin sheaths, there's no feeling in one side of their body, significant, and the other thing is reduce your stress. That also, undoes the work that you're doing. So, but things like, antioxidants, so your top vitamin C foods would be things like to add to your diets, yellow peppers, papaya, one of my favourites. But remember, unfortunately, they've GM'd papaya to death, so it's very hard to get non-GM papaya. Oranges, grapefruits, kiwis, strawberries, broccoli, sprouts, your tomatoes, your potatoes, absolutely fantastic. Odin, you are lovely. Thank you very much. Canned fruits, they have some antioxidants in them, but just be aware that actually, the coating of the can is chemicals and will damage the body. So, and the other thing is that they're not fresh. And so the vitamin level will be significantly reduced in them. But if all you've got is canned food, then basically eat canned food. Let me think about canned food. There's something else. Oh, the other thing is that often it's cooked. So just be aware that, often they cook the canned food, so it's pasteurised, and that just kills it effectively. So you're looking at having about 1,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C if you want to have a healthy body. Now, if you're ill, that would go up. And a great person who talks about this vitamin C, apart from Linus Pauling's work, is Andrew Saul. He's very much in the orthomolecular medicine people. They like vitamin C a lot, and I will use it as an antibiotic at times. So, good quality vitamin C levels in your body are absolutely key. You've got your beta carotene as well, so effectively you're looking at only a few milligrams of this. You really don't need a lot of it, but things like your carrots, your spinach, your peaches, sweet potatoes, kale, red peppers, squash, apricots, broccoli. So you can hear that basically all your antioxidants, they're in all foods. You cannot get away from antioxidants if you are eating fresh foods, but it's important to make sure that you're getting them from the plant arena. So Stingray's saying, if we all become vegan, will that protect us from new flesh-eating zombie virus going around, or would vegetarians just look more appetising? Very possibly so. I'm glad you said vegans wouldn't look more appetising. So I don't know about this flesh-eating zombie virus. In fact, that's probably people eating too much processed food and too many animals. Is that the animals getting their own back? But the CDC a while ago, didn't they put a video out about, a press release out about the fact that they were putting zombie protection in place or something, how to deal with zombie attacks. Someone will know about that on the chat box, I'm sure. So there has to be a protocol for zombies somewhere. But zombies, laugh about that, but actually zombies, God, I look at most people now. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and it was literally about how dull and dumbed down people are becoming. So, we laugh about zombies, but, are we seeing zombies on a regular basis? People who are so dulled from the medications, from the foods, from the sugar. It's going to dull our senses, and then they start to eat us. Okay, so yeah, basically, I can't think about that. I can't. Is it bisphenol A? Someone will remind me. It's in the cans. I think it is, and that just leaches into your food. It's an endocrine disruptor. You really don't want to have that because it affects the hormones basically and the hormone functioning. So thank you very much, Granada Steve. I thought it was bisphenol. Yeah, and you can't eat a vegetarian, Shazzy said. What's wrong with you? But you didn't say vegan. Okay. So Blue Skies is saying the zombie apocalypse is upon us. I'm not so sure it isn't in many respects. I meet so many people, and don't get me wrong. There just seems to be so many people out there who one aren't awake, and two are just very dulled about the ability to really have a conversation that's really wide about things. Just astonishes me. So yeah, what you'll find is that Colombo, basically the lining is in the majority of cans, and it's very hard to get away from them, and it leaches basically. So it's a bit like your plastic bottles. The warmer they get, the more it leaches, and so therefore the air temperature affects it. And so it's important to store them in a cool place, if nothing else. So if you are storing cans, so you're doing kind of survival stuff, it's important to make sure if you are storing them, to actually make sure they're not getting heated up and down all the time, that they're in a stable place temperature wise. Okay. And Stingray's just saying about it's Shaziz is saying how to calm them down. Shaziz, is that after the coffee enema? Okay, I'm going to leave you at that. And the other thing is that, guys, if you're smoking out there, you are going to need things like your antioxidants because of the damage it does and the chemicals that you're taking in. And so antioxidants should be rich in your diet if you're a smoker, because it depletes your vitamin C levels significantly. And I mean significantly. You should be on thousands of milligrams, and your beta carotene as well. So do make sure that you're actually taking them. And then you've got other antioxidants like your vitamin E, and look at about 100 milligrams a day for an average person. So you need to look at your weights and things like this to know how much you should be taking. Now, don't take the synthetic supplements are crap. And the cheaper your supplement, then basically look at how it's been made, because predominantly they're full of rubbish. But your vitamin E is, I would prefer you to get it from dietary sources like your wheat germ oil, your sunflower seeds, your hazelnuts, your peanuts, your sunflowers, your almonds, basically nuts and seeds. Have them rich in your diet. The other great thing to do about your vitamin E sources is soak them in water. And that way you break down the enzymes. They're easier to digest, and it also makes it so that the body can really take the oils in properly, and it's not finding it's hard work. So let's see. So Odin's saying, yes, sweetie, I was out yesterday, and most folk just want to hear good news, not reality. A switch to default, a continuance as a sheep living in fear. Not yet, or ready to be unplugged from the matrix. Yeah, you can see that from the news, the general news that's put out and everything. And but when people surround themselves with only certain types of people and only certain types of information, they're not going to see outside of that. It's the whole compartmentalization of information that happens, and it's done to us all in a variety of ways. And to see outside of that means you have to shift your paradigms in many, many ways and have something generally happen that kind of lets you see beyond that curtain. So, what about nature cures like clover? Your greens are fantastic. I go foraging for greens and put them through my juicer nearly every day from about spring onwards. So I'm collecting things like blackberry leaves and nettles, then dandelions at first, of course, so your blackberry leaves are later in the year, and your different greens that you see, just because they're free, they're wild, and they're powerful foods, fantastic for the body. So a good antioxidant rich food, a rich diet, it will really help with your lifespan. And it helps you to see clarity in this world as well about what's going on. Because as you're congested, if your liver's truly congested, then basically you cannot think straight. It impacts on your whole circulation and the body's ability to function properly. And this is where, I can't remember who it was then, Odin, saying about people not waking up and not seeing. Well, if they're stagnated, if that whole picture stagnated, then basically they're not going to see. Because their body's just not functioning properly. So, and antioxidants are in every tissue, organ and cell of our body. So they're absolutely needed, and they're in all of the natural foods. And I mean natural foods that you eat. So it's actually not hard to have an antioxidant-rich diet and to really help your liver out. And make sure that you're functioning properly and you're thinking straight. So, these foods stop us from oxidizing. But if you are eating things like your ready meals and any preservatives that are in foods, they effectively mean that you're not having antioxidant-rich foods. And so you're kind of undoing what you were trying to aim to do. So often foods that are made, and people will say to me, I eat a healthy diet, and then they'll say everything's bought from, for instance, Marks and Spencer's or Tesco's as a ready meal, and that's not healthy, because the vitamins and the antioxidants have reduced significantly in them because they've been sat around on a shelf. They've got preservatives in them. They're not fresh. And it's that fresh aspect that's so, so important. So, what else have we got on here? Speaking of zombies, someone put a link on there to zombies. Oh gosh, is that the guy that was being eaten? Oh man, somebody ate somebody, didn't they? And the police had to shoot them. Gosh, that's not good, is it? Right, lightly cooking your food. Don't actually overdo the cooking of your foods. So you get your steamers out and things like that. And because the longer you cook your food for, the less nutritious it is. And I'm not saying you have to become a raw vegan, not by any stretch of the imagination. And and 99.9% of my clients, don't become a raw vegan. But it's really important to actually look at what you're doing to your food, because the longer it's cooked for, the less benefit it will have for you, and the more it's likely to congest your liver. Yeah, Michael, it is horrible, isn't it? Yeah. So, and when your liver and body are actually congested, you get increased bacteria. This is where you start to have more and more illness happening. So your diet is absolutely key. So always bring it back to diet. And your body's first defense, basically is to actually release levels of antioxidant enzymes to effectively fight off the bacteria. So it needs those to actually be able to do that. And those enzymes basically require things like your minerals to function properly. So your zincs, your irons, your selenium and your coppers and your manganese, all those things that have been depleted in your soils as well. So it's really important to kind of have a rich diet. Okay. And the more deficient your diet is, the more your body is going to slowly but surely struggle. So what's Stingray saying? I don't eat chips often, proper chips. Oh, chips are lovely. The thing is that, with chips, they're just kind of a special thing, aren't they? If you're only having them occasionally and, have your big fat chips and everything. I've tried with frying chips in coconut oil, and it just doesn't make them taste the same. I'm from the north, we like our chippy dinners. And so just you need to just get yourself good quality olive oil, basically, and kind of understand that every time you have chips, the fried food is actually, it's the acrylamides in it that basically are the damaging aspect of fried food. That when it starts to go brown, that means it's effectively cancer forming in the body. If you read the Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill book, it's that point when it actually tips it over and makes the food brown that's the problem. So, but I just enjoy your chips as you have them, Stingray, occasionally. But Columbo's right. If you're going to have an oil which doesn't denature itself, then basically coconut oil is one of the better ones to use. I tend to use Viridian, and very, very good oil, but more expensive. But you get what you pay for, and you end up using less of it, if you see what I mean. So basically, you tend to end up using it for the same amount of time as a cheaper one. So it's always worth paying slightly more. Oh, my coat. No way. Oh, gosh. We're still talking about the person who effectively ate somebody, and the police ended up having to shoot. So that's what's going on in the chat box at the moment, for anyone who's just listening. Yeah, I agree, Stingray. I do think chips would end up tasting like coconuts, and that would upset me, to be honest. And Royston's specifics on cannibalism are real. Yeah, I hate to say it, but Royston's actually right for a change. So I've got a question from Michael. Hi, Michael. Atkins diet, any thoughts? I don't like the Atkins diet. It cuts out a major food group. You don't have to cut out a major food group to lose weight. It's also focused on specifically weight loss. You lose weight because of a specific chemical way of working in the body and the lack of water. So in the short term, yes, you will lose weight, but in the long term, you can't keep that diet going, and therefore I never put in place anything like that. There are ways to manage weight and weight loss gradually through what is a really nicely balanced diet. So now I would always suggest, and I don't make diet complicated, eat across the whole spectrum of colours. Your antioxidant compounds are actually coloured. So in effect, you all the way through the rainbow, all the way through from your reds, your blues, your red, your purples, your greens, your yellows, your oranges. The plant world brings us all this colour. It doesn't get much better than that. So reflect on that, because really that colour should be on your plate. And if you plate, and I remember years ago when I was watching Gillian McKeith, You Are What You Eat, and they would pile up all the food on the actual table. It was always fascinating about how brown it was, and the only colour was actually on the packets. So their Kellogg's would have the red and the green of the Kellogg's packet would be coming out. The whole colour of food and the vibrancy of natural food is really, really lost. Such a shame, but that's what you're trying to achieve in the diet. So so that they can all work as a complex, and they can all work in synergy, and and that way you don't tend to have the deficiencies in the same way. Okay, and unfortunately our soils are significantly depleted, and if it's not in the plant, it's not going to get into us. So you may end up taking multivitamins and vitamins to make up the deficiencies. But if you're looking at how antioxidants are used up kind of over the years, basically vitamin C tends to be used up first and really quickly, particularly if you're under a lot of stress. So if you have stress, if you've gone through any trauma, or you're smoking, or you're on the pill or medications, your vitamin C levels are being eaten up really quickly. So you need to make sure that antioxidant is always going in. And then you've got things like your carotenoids, your vitamin E comes next. Then basically you've got lipid oxidation happening. So you can see the pattern of how it slowly but surely ends up in the body stagnating, and the body's liver basically getting to a congested point. And so you can see what's missing in your diet and what to put it back in, and make sure that you're having it. So antioxidants are real healers for the body, and they're crucial, in fact, and we should focus on them first and foremost before you put anything else in to actually help that liver, and it will pay off. So great other antioxidants are things like your curcumin and ginger. Fantastic food. And has anybody got any ideas about how to use ginger? I always make it as a tea, or I'll grate it fresh into salads, or I'll put it through a juice with an apple and carrots, for instance. Absolutely fantastic. Reduces inflammation wonderfully. Am I allowed to say that under the Health Claims Act? Possibly not. It may reduce inflammation. Yes. Anyway, so we've got garlic. Fantastic. Garlic is for, and for reducing cholesterol as well. The research is out there showing. You've got things like chilies, ginkgo. So, and that helps with circulation. So really fantastic. You want a clarity of mind, have ginkgo. Okay, you've got cacao, as people were saying earlier, with chocolate, your green teas, your thymes, and your rosemary is fantastic to have in the diet. Really, really, lovely at this time of year. And I love rosemary. I really like having rosemary with tomatoes and hemp oil on them. One of my favourites. And then you've got your sulphur-rich foods. Sulphur is really important in the body as well. So things like your kales, your watercress, which is around at the moment, Brussels sprouts, which you can have near Christmas, horseradish, very, very cleansing now. Be careful with horseradish. Your cabbages, your turnips, cauliflowers, spinach. I've got stacks of spinach going on in the garden, and your raspberries, which are coming through soon. It doesn't get any better than that, really. Okay, so what's going on in the chat box at the moment? Anything? Nothing? Yeah, stingray. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't want chips tasting of coconut. And let's see. Are these Twinings fruit teas really any good? I have an issue with Twinings, and that is that they put preservative in some of their teas, as far as I know. So just check on the ingredients, what you're having. I don't tell my clients not to have them. In fact, they're quite nice to do in summer and let them go cold. So you kind of make a jug up of them, and effectively you can put in some oranges and some lemons and zip them up a bit and make them as a cool drink, which is actually quite nice in summer. I don't really drink Twinings though, because of the fact that I if I remember rightly, when I did some research a while back, they had preservative in them. It might have changed now. I don't know. So. But your herbal teas, just remember that they're botanical, so they're going to actually have an effect on the body in some way. So if your fruit teas have got things like chamomile in them, that's going to sedate the liver, so it's going to have an impact on the liver. So you just need to really choose what you're doing at the right time with them, and the mixtures that you've got going on, just so that you're actually doing the right thing and not the wrong thing. All right. Is there a brand I recommend? Who would I tend to if I'm going to have a herbal tea, I'll tend to use Pukka, because they're herbalists. And so the types of teas that I choose are specifically made by herbalists, and I use, is it Rio Amazon for the herbal teas as well. So I don't tend to actually drink fruit teas just because I don't like them. But the herbal teas I tend to always get specifically from companies who I know their herbals. Celestial teas are also quite good. So Celestial, is it Celestial Seasoning? And I tend to use theirs as well. But yes, has anybody got any ideas about what Stingray could drink apart from vodka in regards to fruit teas? And whiskey. Odin's saying he can live off whiskey. It's worked for him for the last 40 years. Guys, just to make sure you're having your antioxidants then with your whiskey. Take a couple a day to undo the damage you're doing. Keep taking the pills. Now, things like dandelions are absolutely fabulous for liver support. They enhance the bile flow. So I was talking about the gallbladder earlier, and therefore it can really help you to emulsify your fats. So dandelion, it supports the liver in so many different ways, and it supports the kidneys. So was it Clara, or I think it was Clara earlier, was talking about the kidneys, about kidney stones. In effect, dandelion is one of the key things you could actually be using. And dandelion coffee and tea, interesting. Remember, that's cooked, so in effect I would always, and you will find it's diuretic and liver cleansing, and at different times of the year as well. So I can't remember whether I think it's earlier in the year that the the dandelions are more diuretic as well, so you need to look at when you're picking them. But in regards to kind of dandelion tea, I'm not sure it has the same effects as fresh dandelions. So remember that you've got all this food often around you, and medicinal food, which actually can be really very, very beneficial to you. And Stingray is actually fighting back now about, he doesn't drink spirits, full stop. Stop picking on me. Stop picking on Stingray, whoever's picking on him. What was said to him? So Mahatma's saying, how does someone get drunk quicker and easier? Well, if you don't drink for a while, and then basically if you have a glass of wine, believe me, you'll get drunk very quickly after that. 40% alcohol is just not going to be very good for the body, and that's Odin. Absolutely right. No matter which way you look at it. And the other thing is milk thistle. So lots of you will know about milk thistle. It's got a really long history of basically being used in liver support, as burdock root as well, and that's used as a blood cleanser. So and someone's saying St John's wort tea is as a pick me up. That's nice to do, and will be very calming as well, which is quite good. So burdock root, so you could always make yourself a really nice burdock tea. And let me just think about milk thistle. The silymarin in it basically is what is the part of it that's actually considered to be liver protective, and it's what promotes the production of new liver cells. So it's that aspect of it that is beneficial, and so it's obviously useful to actually have. And I always tend to have some in, and if I've got somebody who's got a liver picture, I'll always try and get them on milk thistle quite quickly, so that we've got that underlying support happening. So Shaziz is saying hot peppers cure a stuffy nose. I just tend to listen to them. Is that the same band we're talking about, Shaziz? But yeah, they will clear you out. Hot peppers for a variety of reasons. Never mind clear your stuffy nose. Okay, you've got things like globe artichokes. They've been used to improve digestion over the years, and therefore that has an impact on improving the liver and gallbladder function. Okay, and that's the cyanarin found in it, which actually it basically stimulates bile secretion. So you've got all these foods that you can actually call on all the time, which will support your liver and will help to cleanse it. So as well as the antioxidants, you'll be putting all these other bits and pieces in. And then you've got turmeric, and that's seen in research, and there's more and more research coming out about turmeric because there's curcumin in it basically, and they're finding that curcumin is very powerful as an anti-inflammatory in general, but turmeric's seen to be liver protective, and it also helps with improving fat metabolism and improving your digestion. Which is and that happens because the functioning of the liver starts to become less stagnant. So you've got that whole elimination cycle starting to function properly, and that's effectively what you're looking for. Now, I touched earlier on fasting, and we've also touched on kind of coffee enemas, but fasting can really help the liver, and resting your digestive system can be very, very beneficial to the body. And because your digestion takes up so much time and so much of your energy in the body, and therefore to give your body a rest can be very, very beneficial. And from actually constantly digesting, because if you look at how much, if you think that food gives you energy, look at your Christmas dinner and how energized you feel after it. Very few of us actually feel very energized overall. So what else is going on? Turmeric, great for restless leg syndrome too. Brilliant. And that's probably because the leg's congested. So think about why that might be happening. That's, if you've got restless legs, what you've probably got is your minerals are out of balance, and therefore it's causing that whole contraction happening all the time. And therefore that to me says the minerals aren't balanced in the body, and it's caused also by one that's diet, 2 that'll be water, and 3 you need to be looking at the stagnation in the leg and therefore the liver as well, and the bowels probably. So Suman, don't just think about putting something in. Look at the overall functioning of why the body's actually struggling. So what Stingray said. Stingray said he's far too lazy to have restless leg syndrome. Okay. So nowadays, loads of people basically got congested fatty livers, and unfortunately, what is actually scary is that this is actually then impacting on the heart, because if you remember, I said that your vein comes out of the liver, it passes the nutrients, the blood circulation through to your heart. And we're seeing more and more heart disease continuously. And what's scary is that we're also seeing increased heart disease in children. And they're seeing an increase in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in children. Absolutely astonishing. And it's quite scary, really, on the whole. So, and that's because they've got a congested fatty liver. How have they managed to have such a congested fatty liver so soon? Shaziz is saying he's got restless brain syndrome. Why does that not surprise me? Okay. And when you've got this happening, you've got these fat deposits happening, you're going to see liver disease happening, unfortunately. And they say it's an unexplained disease. I find it absolutely astonishing that the medical establishment say this is unexplained. They can't understand why people got fatty livers. But yeah, it only happens in Western affluent societies. I'm just not going to say that, Michael, honestly. I can't believe you put the sunglasses emoticon after it as well. Okay. But if you've got a fatty liver, it's telling you that your liver cells are being choked to death effectively by your diet and by your lifestyle, and that you can't metabolize your fats fully or effectively, and you're just going to end up gaining more and more weight over time. So you are going to find that if you're going to struggle more and more with your health, unfortunately, if you've got a congested liver. So the dietary ideas that I've given you around antioxidants, and I'm really pushing them in, making sure you've got your water in place, and making sure you've got those key foods in place, and things like your milk thistles and dandelions are absolutely key. And Odin just talks about fluoride, actually, and fluoride is one of the key things that actually creates a fatty liver. So on top of it damaging the pineal gland and the soul, which is quite upsetting really, and dulling us down, basically you've got things like it damages the liver over time, so it puts more stress on it. Your alcohols, your caffeines do the same thing, but also things that we don't actually realize half the time, like your chlorines, your high fat foods, low fiber diets. So if you're on that Atkins diet, it's a low fiber diet. It will impact on your liver, basically. Things like pesticides. OJ can't deal with any grains. Interesting. That's got me thinking. But your refined grains or your baked goods, your sugars, your yeasts, all those sort of things. And if you've got a candida picture, if you've got bacteria happening, if you're slow healing, look at your liver picture, because it means that your liver's not really functioning properly. So things like lecithin can also help with that as well. So lecithin is actually it acts as an emulsifier, so it helps break up the fats. So if you've got no gallbladder or you've got gallstones, you might want to look at putting lecithin in as well. So General Galtieri, hello, and you've got so he's saying, is Bragg's organic apple cider vinegar good for you? Absolutely. Well, I don't know about Bragg's in general, but apple cider vinegar is very good for the digestion. I use it in a number of ways. It can, like I say, it can really benefit digestion, but I actually use it as a conditioner for my hair. So Although, to come back to Stingray earlier about chips, I do then smell like a packet of chips, which can be a bit disturbing for some people. But yeah, cider vinegar has a lot of uses, and it's obviously very good to have on salads and things. So add as a vinegar on salads. Just the only time I wouldn't suggest having a vinegar is if you've got a very big out of balance candida picture, and then in effect you may want to avoid your vinegars until you've got that actually resolved, and then come back to it later. And Jim and Lorraine are here. Hello, peeps. Indeed. Hello, Jim and Lorraine. Missed you. I wondered where you were this week. Okay. Yeah, the thing is with your grains, the more processed your grains are, the faster the enzymes work on them to break them down, and it impacts on the blood sugar quickly, and that obviously then impacts on your insulin levels. If you've not got that, if your pancreas is struggling, then in effect you've got that whole picture there of blood sugar, which is just gonna imbalance you significantly, basically. So this is where grains can cause people a problem. And some grains, your wheat, like I was saying in a previous show, in effect, you've got your gluten grains, which have just been shown to cause things like schizophrenia and mental issues. So some grains you'll want to avoid. I tend to use the seed grains. Things like quinoa is fantastic for adding into your diets. Your buckwheats, if you can deal with it, rye, obviously that's a gluten grain, but oats, things like that, really, really beneficial. Amaranth, fantastic. Is vinegar corrosive to your teeth? Wow, right. And this will be the last thing I talk about. What happens in the mouth is, if you are more acidic and if your diet is more acidic, then basically you are going to find you've got more plaque happening, and your mouth and your saliva can't deal with it, and this creates more plaque in the mouth. So in effect, vinegar on its own isn't a problem. It's actually the whole diet and the over acidity in the body that's the problem. Okay, so this is where you tend to see the increase in plaque. You tend to see more problems happening in the mouth, with the degradation in the mouth. So, any more questions for this week before I finish and hand over to the lovely Shaziz? So this is your last chance. And Odin's saying he's a slave to the rhythm. I haven't got that track. Okay. No more questions? You've all gone really quiet suddenly. Vinegar must be unpasteurised. Everything must be unpasteurised. The less cooking, the better. This whole pasteurisation thing's just rubbish. And don't buy into it, guys. The whole pasteurisation of milk and all that things. It's just there so it increases shelf life and allows the companies to put more, have poorer food hygiene in effect. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to be handing over to Shaziz in a minute, less than a minute. So, Shaziz, you're there? You are there indeed. What have you got on this afternoon, Shaziz, on those Tesla coals? Tell me quickly. Anything? Nothing? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. And anybody else? That's Debs. Oh, Jim and Lorraine. That's okay, but I did miss you this week. I'll be honest, because you're always on here. So I wondered what had happened to you. Everyone's saying it's a great show. Thank you very much. But it's only a good show because you send me loads of questions and then you send me loads of ideas, and keep doing that, because the more I get them, the more I can then basically answer your questions and keep it all going, and I can tailor it more for yourself. And of course, whilst I'm doing that, I'm also learning. So bring your knowledge as well. I'm handing over to Shaziz now. Okay, take care. Bye bye.